Based on recent events, I have to address the veracity of claims made by podcast host Dave Janda, Mary Fanning, and now Kirk Weibe and Bill Binney. In light of General Michael Flynn's attorney Sidney Powell and her recent tweet about Dennis Montgomery and the HAMR, I have got to bring forth evidence proving that this story is a hoax. Sidney Powell is a brilliant attorney. In my view, she's a hero. I've spoken with her at a conference, and I think what she's doing is absolutely necessary. I think she was fed the same information that other journalists have and took it at face value. If you read Mary Fanning's article on Dennis Montgomery and the HAMR, it looks credible until you dig down into her facts and her documentation or lack thereof. You will, if you do, as I'm about to show you, you will find that it is false, full of errors, and essentially this story, which has been promoted now for 3 years by Janda and company, is false. And it is so void of evidence and being pushed intentionally that it is, in my view, a hoax. This is very serious. This false information was seeded up to the attorney of General Michael Flynn as he defends himself against deep state attacks on him and his freedom. If this HAMR information was brought to court in General Flynn's defense, it could have seriously jeopardized his case. I couldn't be more supportive of Sidney Powell's efforts to expose the deep state targeting of General Flynn and some of the other deep state activities themselves. Those of you that know me know that I have been working to expose the shadow government and deep state since I came out in public and revealed its illegal activity in 2012. That's why I feel duty-bound to bring out this evidence, this information that I have uncovered. And on this program, Dave Janda and company have been, as I mentioned, doing this, promoting this for 3 years, and now have sent this all the way up to an important case that impacts General Flynn's freedom and the freedom of the rest of us as we expose deep state cover-up. Janda and Fanning have been avoiding all of the evidence that I, Mike Zullo, and others have presented. They will not address it. They are cover completely up Dennis Montgomery's past, documents I'll show you in a moment. And they will not address the evidence, and they've refused interviews to come on and discuss their story if indeed it is true. They have refused to do that. Instead, Mr. Janda, Dr. Janda, has simply dropped names as supporters of his story with no evidence. These are names of well-known people. Most of them are friends of mine. Most of them I have worked with in the past. They're good people. I think it's pretty clear that they were just given Janda's version and Mary Fanning's story and took that at face value when indeed it is a false story and a hoax. So it's very important. Name dropping and secondhand information does not negate evidentiary facts, documentation, court cases, and eyewitness testimony. And I want to make that very, very clear in the beginning, that what I'm talking about is all evidence-based. So they continue to push this story, and as I've mentioned now a couple of times, it's very serious. Let's get into some of the facts, and I'm going to leave these on this program so you can come back and look at them for yourself if you want to come back and review this information. The 47 hard drives alleged by Dennis Montgomery and alleged by Dave Janda, Mary Fanning, Bill Binney, and Kirk Weibe have been proven, and they allege these 47 drives contain a massive CIA spy computer code. They've been proven a hoax, and I will provide that evidence shortly. 600 million pages of CIA surveillance information on American citizens alleged by Dennis Montgomery and promoted by Dave Janda, Mary Fanning, Kirk Weibe, and Bill Binney are also a hoax. Here's a court case regarding the 47 hard drives and the 600 million pages of information. Melendrez, ECF 1166. The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office experts have concluded that these experts, who officially concluded this in a court, part of a court case, as requested by the Sheriff's Office, These experts concluded this, and this is on the record. A, Dennis Montgomery deliberately compiled massive amounts of data on these drives for the purpose of obfuscating the fact the data itself contained no evidence to support Dennis Montgomery's claims. There was no sensitive information contained on any of these 50, and it was later amended to 47, hard drives. B, emails contained on the drive were of questionable validity. Quote, our experts brought to question the validity concerning a number of emails Dennis Montgomery provided on the same hard drives. Those were emails that were purported to be from government officials to Dennis Montgomery, and they turned out to be false. As we continue, C, also of questionable validity was information provided to support Montgomery's contention that the federal government had, quote, unquote, harvested information in violation of the Fourth Amendment. The information cannot be sourced for validity. The Sheriff's Office experts had Montgomery's drives examined. Again, these experts were Binney, Kirk Weibe, and Thomas Drake. Again, Thomas Drake sacrificed quite a bit, and I consider him a hero. These experts had Montgomery's drives examined, and there was, quote, absolutely nothing of value on them. To be clear, there was nothing of a classified nature contained on any of them, and as a matter of fact, there was evidence of fabrication on numerous levels. Here is the email referencing the conclusions of these NSA experts to the Sheriff's Office based on their review of these 47 hard drives, Dennis Montgomery, the 600 million pages, and his claims. From Thomas Drake to investigator Brian Makowitz, who worked with Mike Zullo. Quote, Brian, good morning. Kirk Weibe and I are providing you a summary attached, which Mike Zullo has in his possession to this day, of our data and information analysis of the alleged, quote unquote, key data designed to prove the source, Dennis Montgomery's case. We have found that he is a complete and total fraud. All he has done is provide you with readily available lists of email addresses, names, phone numbers of both individuals and businesses, and a lot of framed up information, data and code, but no proof of whence they came, and a whole lot of faked and made up documents and analysis. Signed, Tom Drake, Tom. Here's an email sent to me by Kirk Weibe Friday, June 14th of this year. It says, Kevin, there is no way for us to know whether Dennis ran HAMR or any program, as we have not seen direct evidence. That said, and the key fact that makes us believe he deserves a listen is Negroponte sponsors court order gagging him based on national security concerns. That's talking about the invocation of the state's secrets privilege, which sadly, for the detractors, I am an expert on because I stood up against the state secrets privilege and I know it in detail. The privilege was invoked in this case, not on Dennis Montgomery's information because it was all unclassified. If you go in and look at the court documents, which I have, it was invoked for sources and methods that may have been brought into this case. Again, Dennis Montgomery was not a CIA insider. He was an employee of a company called eTrepid that had a CIA clearance and a CIA contract. And indeed, there's a court case that documents from eTrepid that Dennis Montgomery stole the source code from that company. So Montgomery was not a CIA insider, and his information was not classified. Hence, the state secrets privilege was not invoked because of that. That is a weak, false argument. Now, the FBI property receipt reports in Mary Fanning's articles on Dave Janda's program, supported and promoted by Kirk Weibe and Bill Binney. These are the false FBI property receipts. Now, as a former federal investigator and a former federal police officer, I, along with investigator Mike Zullo, know that these property receipts are bound by law. They have to be properly processed, or the police officer involved, the property room attendant involved, can face charges. Look at this document. Look in the upper left-hand corner of each document. There is no file number. That is required on a real document. If you look down at the bottom, that I have circled in red, there is no signature of receipt by the alleged FBI property receipt officer. And if you look at these two pages, they're both in different handwriting, written by two different people. These are fake. These are not real property reports. And yet, if you go and look at Mary Fanning's articles on Dennis Montgomery and the HAMR, you will see these all over the place. Next. Carl Cameron took the case on behalf of Fox News, spent 2 weeks with Dennis Montgomery, had him on videotape. This is Cameron's final response to Dennis Montgomery as Fox News dropped the story. From Carl Cameron to David Webb, David Webb was Dennis Montgomery's alias. Quote, Fox never froze your story, Dennis. You did. The day we met, I told you any story hinged on the data. On tape, you described the data and you said you would produce it, and you said you were prepared to face the music for having kept the drives. I reiterated repeatedly that day that it was up to you to produce the data, and you repeatedly said you understood. By December, it was clear you were not producing and not being honest. I reiterated the need for the data, and you repromised. In January, you admitted you never intended to produce what you'd promised because of the potential criminal charges. Face it, you've been lying about lots of things. I was not surprised when Blixith called me from Arizona and put Arpaio on the phone with me in January, and the deputies began calling soon after. I was not surprised when other reporters were contacted about you. I'm not surprised that your story is coming out and you are not a part of it. I'm not surprised that you think Arizona can help you. I am surprised that you keep deluding yourself and trying to blame me for your own unwillingness to keep your word. I'm surprised that a guy as smart as you who insists, quote unquote, data trumps rhetoric would keep insulting my intelligence with empty rhetoric instead of the data you promised for months. Cameron dropped the story and it was never picked up by him again. Let's continue. Kirk Weibe and Bill Binney have been supporting and promoting this story, and that's always been puzzling to me because they're smart men, both of them. Friends of mine, I met with them several times. Why would they promote a story that is false? Why would they contradict their own written, documented analysis prepared for a court of law? Now they're coming out and saying exactly the opposite, and it's puzzling. And of course, I've been digging to find out why. They now, Kirk Weibe and Binney, are claiming that they did not sign off on the legal memo from the sheriff's office stating that the drives were fake and Montgomery was a fraud. Zullo still has the memo, as I mentioned, for anybody to see, with their signatures on the report, and they did indeed sign off on it. It is a matter of record, and we have those records. Also concerning to me is Kirk Weibe has now come out publicly and said that he is working with Dennis Montgomery on a voter fraud system, meaning he has a financial interest in protecting Dennis Montgomery, working with Dennis Montgomery, and protecting his very concerning legal past and fraudulent activity. Bill Binney claimed on Janda's program after we brought forth the evidence, Mike Zullo and myself, Bill Binney claimed on the Janda program that they could no longer discuss it and they could no longer be interviewed because Bill Binney had turned it over to the FBI and now they could not talk about it. The problem with that is Bill Binney is now talking about it. And I can tell you that I also turned it over to the FBI in writing, and they did not tell me to stop talking about it. I still obviously am to this day. So why would Bill Binney say that? To stop all further discussion of this incident except their side and what they were doing. That's puzzling. And I can tell you back in April of 2018, Bill Binney and Kirk Weibe requested a meeting with me. During that meeting, they pitched me on this source code system for detecting voter fraud. And Kirk Weibe told me that I was essential to them doing this. And I was told by Kirk Weibe that I would never have to worry about money again. So my question is there a financial connection here between Bill Binney and Kirk Weibe? And is this why they continue to cover for Dennis Montgomery and promote a case that is false? Here are some examples. Montgomery versus Rison. James Rison wrote in his book that Dennis Montgomery was the maestro behind what many current and former U.S. officials documented and others familiar with the case now believe was one of the most elaborate and dangerous hoaxes in American history. In 2016, a federal court dismissed Montgomery's lawsuit against Rison for defamation. And in 2017, the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia affirmed that dismissal in Rison's favor. In other words, the information was factual and legitimate, and there was no slander and no defamation. Another court case, Nevada versus Montgomery, a criminal case, state of Nevada versus Dennis Montgomery. The summary of this case states, this case arose from Montgomery's alleged passing bad checks at Caesar's Palace on September 28, 2008. Montgomery was charged with 6 felony counts, including 1 count of drawing and passing a check without sufficient funds and draw a bank with intent to defraud, B, 2 felony theft counts, C, 2 non-sufficient funds check counts, and D, 1 count of obtaining money under false pretenses. That court case, which is still pending, is for $1 million in fraud. You can go online, you can look up these court cases for yourself and see this information. Penny versus Prager, 3net versus 3net system, for which Montgomery worked for. Case number is here, September 17th, 1993. The summary, Dennis Montgomery is a defendant in this case which alleges sexual harassment and retaliation. Dennis Montgomery and/or their insurers make a cash settlement payment to Page, May 27, 1995. Page worked for Dennis Montgomery. Dennis Montgomery worked for eTrepid as he was stealing source code and hardware for the company, which resulted in the eTrepid versus Montgomery case. Here it is. Montgomery et al. Versus eTrepid in the court documents. You can go to these court documents and you can see this for yourself. Montgomery steals eTrepid source code and computer hardware. The resolution, September 2009. Montgomery and co-defendants agreed to pay $20 million to settle eTrepid's claims and $5 million to settle the owner, Trepp's claims, based on statements Montgomery had made about Trepp, which involved false emails, defamatory information, and other things. December 2009, confessions of judgment were entered against Montgomery and his co-settlers. Sheriff's Officer Chief Investigator Eyewitness Mike Zullo, and I have this on my YouTube channel, an hour video on this with Mr. Zullo's comments. As part of an ongoing court case, Zullo testifies in the video that we have out there on YouTube that he hired personally Kirk Weibe, Thomas Drake, and Bill Binney to examine Dennis Montgomery's 47 hard drives with the alleged super spy, CIA spy system code, and the alleged 600 million pages of surveillance information on Americans. Zullo has the full report that Kirk Weibe and Bill Binney provided, and they did sign off on. Their professional analysis, as I just previously showed you, the 47 hard drives were fake, and Dennis Montgomery is a fraud. Montgomery has an IRS case out there you can find. The final determination by the IRS. The IRS determined that plaintiff Montgomery's partnerships were shams and accordingly disallowed the losses the Montgomerys had claimed on their individual tax returns. Dennis Montgomery, sole source of information. This was a 2010 Playboy article investigation titled, quote, "The Man Who Conned the Pentagon." He said he won millions in federal contacts for his supposed terrorist exposing intelligence software in this particular interview. The software was later reported to have been an elaborate hoax. Montgomery's own former lawyer, Michael J. Flynn, not General Flynn, Michael J. Flynn, the attorney, called him a, quote, con artist, a habitual liar engaged in fraud. Again, this information stood, and these claims stood. The Guardian reported, the title was "The Nevada Gambler, Al-Qaeda, the CIA, and the Mother of All Cons." Quote, 6 years later, Playboy magazine has revealed that the CIA fell victim to an elaborate con by a compulsive gambler, hence the $1 million outstanding charge, who claimed to have developed software that discovered Al Jazeera broadcasts were being used to transmit messages to terrorists buried deep in America. Dennis Montgomery, 56, the co-owner of a software gaming company in Nevada, who has since been arrested for bouncing $1 million worth of checks, and that case is still pending, claims his program read messages hidden in barcodes listing international flights to the U.S., their positions, airports to be targeted. That caused a major security incident in the United States, and planes were actually turned around back to their destination. So, Fanning, Dave Janda, Bill Binney, and Kirk Weibe are ignoring the evidence. These are court documents. The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office investigation, which still has the files and the records. Credible investigative journalists like Sharon Rondeau, and I would recommend people go out and read her investigative reports on this. Her conclusions, the conclusions of James Rison in his book, The Current Criminal Investigation Against Montgomery for $1 million in check fraud at a casino, and Mike Zullo's investigation and the information that we uncovered. Fanning, Janda, Binney, and Weibe are ignoring all of this. The question is, why has this information been overlooked? Why has it been blocked? And why are they avoiding the criminal past of Dennis Montgomery, the fact that he manipulated journalists and others into believing his hoax? There's no doubt he's brilliant. He's a brilliant con man. And now he has pushed his con all the way up to an attempt to Sidney Powell and the defense team of General Michael Flynn. So in summary, the evidence shows that the 47 hard drives reported by Dave Janda and company are a hoax. The 600 million pages of CIA surveillance information on American citizens alleged by Dave Janda, Mary Fanning, and company, originating from Dennis Montgomery, the source, are a hoax. Dennis Montgomery is a documented fraud and con man, as I have proven, and there's more evidence out there that you can find. These 47 hard drives, as I just mentioned, reported by Dave Janda as being factual for the last 3 years, are false. The $600 million page claim is false. The problem with all of this is it distracts from the real case, what is really going on, the soft coup against Donald Trump, the President of the United States, and the targeting of General Michael Flynn. It distracts from the false FISA affidavits. It distracts from the spies in the Trump campaign, Stephen Halper and Joseph Mifsud. It distracts from the setting up of George Papadopoulos by spies working with then Director John Brennan, which started the entire illegal FBI criminal investigation of Donald Trump. It distracts from the abuse of the 702 surveillance request by the Obama administration to spy on Obama's political opponents. And it distracts from the shadow government deep state operation that is still ongoing to remove a sitting president of the United States and to circumvent the votes of the people that elected him. Thank you very much for watching this. I would encourage you to go back and look at my evidence, go out on the net and look for the evidence yourself. There is reams of it out there. Thank you all very much.